Amen. Amen. All right, so I need some audience participation today. By a show of hands, has anybody ever thought they were better than somebody else? All right? Yes, all right. Okay, the first service was a little more honest, so maybe let's do that again. Anybody ever thought they were better than somebody else? Well, let me give you some examples to get your mind going. Have you ever thought the following? I'm glad I'm not as behind on my retirement savings as this person next to me. Hey, I'm glad I'm not as disorganized as the other person in my office, because they're pretty disorganized. They need to get it together. I'm really glad I'm doing really well with parenting, because this person over here, their kids are a mess. I'll give you a better illustration. At the end of our service today, we're going to recognize our 2024 high school graduates. This is a day of celebration, right? High school is over, college is about to begin. But in 21st century New Jersey, this can also be a prime example of I'm better than you mentality. Many will separate colleges and universities into different tiers. You may have heard of this. In fact, the website collegevine.com explains that the college tier conundrum plays out this way. They say this: the concept of college tiers is a way to categorize and evaluate colleges and universities based on selectivity, reputation, resources, graduation rates, and other factors. Now, accordingly, the website, although there's others that would say this, established 4 tiers. 4 tiers. Tier 1 is the most prestigious schools. And by the way, I came up with a chart for this. I can see Pastor Dave salivating in the front row. That's right. Sometimes you just need a chart. Julie, we're going to pray for you right now. All right. These are the elite colleges and universities, your Ivy Leagues, your Stanfords, your MITs, and other top colleges. All right. Tier 2. These are the colleges and universities that are highly respected, right? But not prestigious. Maybe like Lehigh. I don't know, something like that. They have strong resources, but they're not as well known as your top tier schools. They're your fallback schools, okay? And then number 3, tier 3, these are the regional schools, the small colleges. You attend these schools because they're close to home. And quite frankly, they're a lot less expensive. Tier 4, these are your community colleges, your vocational schools, your online universities. They have high acceptance rates. And the website only has 4 tiers, but I'll add tier number 5, and that's just simply you don't go to college. Maybe you start working, maybe you take a gap year. Now, there you go. 5 tiers of college. I'll ask again. Have you ever thought you were better than somebody else? Now, I want you to notice that in 1 minute, what I've done is separated nearly everybody in this room into one of these 5 categories. And you might be feeling a little self-conscious, right? And in fact, I suspect some of us are very aware of this. Maybe you're reliving now the disappointment of not getting into your first choice school. Or maybe you're thankful that you were accepted into that top school, and now you're relieved that you're not like those other people that had to suffer through the lower tiers. Have you ever thought you were better than somebody else? Now, education is a good example because in many ways we trust our education to get us ahead in life. It can be a symbol of accomplishments. And I'm not saying this morning that education is a bad thing or that we shouldn't celebrate hard work and accomplishments, but I am saying that we have to be careful it does not take a controlling position within our hearts. We have to be careful that we do not think we are better and do not need God. In today's parable, that's the mindset that Jesus is addressing. And he's speaking to us. Now notice, unlike other parables, Jesus tells us exactly what he's doing at the beginning. We read that he told the parable to some who trusted in themselves that they were righteous. Now that word trusted can be translated as they were convinced of their righteousness. In other words, they were convinced they were better than all those unrighteous people out there. And do you know what happens when people are convinced of their righteousness? You're right all the time, right? Does anybody, and if somebody doesn't see it your way, well, we're going to treat them with contempt, is what Jesus is getting at. Have you ever treated somebody with contempt? That's why Jesus spoke the parable. Now, how does that play out in our lives? Well, people who are convinced they are righteous, well, they always have to win the argument. Does anybody out there have to have the final word? You don't have to raise your hands, unless you want to. Confession time. People who are convinced of their righteousness, they look down on other people who don't work as hard as them, who complain more than they do, because they don't understand why everybody else can't get it together. But you know what I've noticed? A lot of times, people who are convinced of their righteousness, many times they don't let you know what they're thinking. They hide their thoughts because they know they're right, but they just don't want to say it. What's the point? And here's the thing. People who are convinced they are righteous, they certainly don't need God to help them because they have it all figured out. They got the A+ in school. They are smart. Have you seen the IQ scores on this one? And the attitude is reflected in how we treat others and then in our prayer life. That's what Jesus is talking about in today's parable. People who are convinced they are righteous will inevitably treat others with contempt. Why? Because something's going on in our heart. So I would like to invite you to ask the question we've been asking through this section, and that's just simply, where am I in the parable? What do my prayers reveal about my heart posture?